Hello guys, welcome back to LaDenser Crochets. If you're new to the channel, you're welcome. My name is Liz. Kindly subscribe and join the family. In this tutorial, I'll be showing you how to make this cardigan. It's a V-neck cardigan with buttons, and I really enjoyed making this cardigan. It's unbelievable because usually I don't enjoy making sweaters, by the way. I love them, but I don't like how much time they take. But with this one, it was so easy, so fast. The stitch is the double crochet stitch, and that's for the main part of the cardigan. Then for the ribbon, I used the slip stitch. You can use the single crochet for the ribbon, but you will have to use a smaller hook than what you're going to use for the main part of the cardigan. So grab your materials and let's get into this tutorial. If you enjoyed the tutorial, don't forget to leave a like, a comment, share, subscribe. If you wish to leave a special thanks, you can do that by clicking on the thanks button below the video. Let's get into it. These right here are the requirements for making the cardigan. You're going to need the following measurements too. The chest or the bust measurement, mine is 36. The full length of the cardigan, I want mine to be 20 inches, so you take 20 minus 2, which is 18. Then you're going to need the sleeve length, mine is 21 to 22. Then you're going to take the bust measurement divided by 4, which gives me 9 inches. So I'll have 9 inches for each of the front panels, and this is how my front panels will look like. Then for the back panel, it's going to be 18 inches, which is 36 divided by 2. So get those measurements, and then I'm going to start with the front panel. Begin with a slip knot. Then I'm going to make a chain that is long enough to fit a quarter of my bust measurement, which is the 9 inches after dividing by 4. I'm going to first chain 30, and then I'll confirm to see the length that I'll have gotten with the 30 chains. I have my 30 chains ready, so I'll get the measuring tape and take this measurement to see whether it's going to get me to the 9 inches that I'm working towards. And I'm measuring without stretching. It's a cardigan and you don't want it too tight, so the measurements, we take them without stretching. So this one gets me to 8 inches and I want to get to 9. So I'm going to add 5 more chains to get me to 35 chains. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So when I measure this, it's going to be slightly above 9 inches, and I'm quite okay with that. Like I've mentioned, the cardigan does not have to be tight at all, so you can even work with 10 inches if you are working like the same size I'm working. After chaining, you're going to block off the second chain from the hook, then chain 2 more, and that will act as our first double crochet. Yarn over, insert the hook into that chain that we are holding, then pull up a loop to get 3 loops on the hook, yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through the remaining 2 to complete a double crochet. Yarn over, insert the hook into the next chain and place a double crochet right there, and this is the 3rd double crochet. Then into the next chain we do another double crochet, and that's going to be my 4th double crochet. And I'm going to place 1 double crochet into all the chains across. At the end of the first row, I'll have a total of 35 double crochets. If you've started with 40, you're going to have a total of 40 double crochets, and so on. So do that till the end of the row, and I'll meet you at the end. I'm at the end of that first row, and this is what I have. So now I'll get the measuring tape and check how long it is. After doing the first row, it stretches out a little bit, and as you can see, it's getting me to 10 inches. So that means the 30 chains that I had done before could have gotten me to 9 inches after working the first row, but I'm just going to work with the 10. I don't want something tight, so chain 3 and turn to begin row 2. That is the first double crochet in the first stitch, so we're going to skip the first stitch and work a double crochet into the second stitch, then a double crochet into the 3rd stitch, a double crochet into the 4th stitch, and 1 double crochet into all the stitches across in row 2. Like I mentioned, this is a very simple pattern. We just work in 1 double crochet into every stitch. So work till you get to the end of row 2. I'll meet you towards the end of row 2 to show you how to complete the row. So recently I got a comment telling me that my nails are so much in the video. I don't know what to do about that. This is just how I hold my hook. So if my videos are not working for you, if you feel like the nails are so much into the video, I don't know, like how can the nails not be in the video when I'm working with my fingers? But I try my best to make sure that I show you every bit of the process. So if you're enjoying this tutorial, kindly hit the like, leave a comment, tell me whether if you've been watching my videos, do you feel like you see the stitches clear enough, or do you think there's something that I can do to improve on the quality of how I record my videos? So I'm working towards the end of row 2. This is the last visible stitch, so we place a double crochet into it, and then the last stitch will be on the chain 3. So make sure that a stitch goes on top of the chain 3, and that will be our last stitch. Chain 3 and turn to begin row 3. And row 3 is the same as row 2. So we begin in the second stitch with 1 double crochet. Then we're going to work 1 double crochet into the next stitch, 1 double crochet into the stitch that follows, and then we're going to work all the way to the end of row 3, just placing 1 double crochet into every stitch. Make sure that at the end you place a double crochet on top of the chain 3. So we're basically going to repeat this same row. I'll show you one more time, then I'll let you keep going. I'm coming to the end of row 3, and I'm just placing my last double crochet into the chain 3 right there. Then I'll chain 3, which is my first double crochet, and turn to begin row 4, begin in the second stitch and work all the way to the end. Then I'll keep repeating the row, that is row 2, until I have 9 inches. 9 inches is the length from the bottom of my cardigan to the armpits. As I showed you before, the full length of my cardigan is 20. I subtracted 2, which will be covered by the ribbon. Then I'm going to take the 18 inches minus the armhole length. The length of an adult armhole is 9 inches. So when I take 18 minus 9, that gets me to 9 inches, which is what I want to show you right here. So 18 minus 9, that's the armhole. That will get me to 9. So I'm working the repeat row until I get to 9 inches. If your full length minus the ribbon is say 20 inches, you're going to take 20 minus 9, which will give you 11. So you're going to work a total of 11 inches, and then we start reducing to get to the V-neck. So now I'll just keep working row 2 repeatedly until I get to the 9 inches and then come back. I've done a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 times 2, that's 16, plus 1, that's 17. So I've done a total of 17 rows to get me to the 9 inches. Then I'm going to mark the 17th row. I just want to make sure that I can remember where I'll start decreasing. When I measure this, it gets me to the 9 inches. I'm sorry, I forgot to show you how to take the measurement, but you're going to take the measurement without stretching your work. So chain 3 and turn to begin row 18. Yarn over and insert the hook into the second stitch and pull up a loop, then yarn over and pull through 2 and don't complete the double crochet. Yarn over into the third stitch, pull up the 2 loops, pull up through the 2 loops, do not complete, then yarn over and pull through the 3 loops that are remaining. So we've combined the second and the third stitch into one, and that's a reduction. Then in the fourth stitch, we're just going to work 1 double crochet, and we're going to work 1 double crochet all the way to the end of row 18. I'm at the end of row 18, and I'll place my last double crochet into the chain 3 then I'll chain 3 and turn to begin row 19. For row 19, we're going to reduce on the side where the stitch marker is. So we begin normally in the second stitch, 1 double crochet, then 1 double crochet into all the stitches until we have 2 stitches remaining at the end. I have my 2 stitches remaining, so I'll yarn over, insert my hook into the second last stitch, yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over, insert the hook into the chain 3, then yarn over and pull through 2, then combine the 2 stitches into one by pulling through the 3 loops, chain 3 and turn. So I've reduced in 2 rows. The next row will be a row with no reduction, so we work normally in the second stitch, then 1 double crochet into all the stitches across. Then I'm going to get a stitch marker and mark that row where I've not reduced. I want to make sure that I know the row that has no reduction, so I can maintain 2 rows of reduction, 1 row with no reduction. So with this one, I'll work to the end without any reduction, then the next row will have a reduction. So this is my row 20. Then as I come to the end of row 21, I'll do a reduction. I'm at the end of row 20, so I'll do my last stitch in the chain 3, then I'll chain 3 and turn to begin row 21. Row 21 is a reduction row, so I'm going to work until I have 2 stitches remaining at the end. So just work normally, and when you have 2 stitches remaining, we're going to combine them into one. I have my 2 stitches remaining at the end, so I'll yarn over, insert a hook into the second last, then I'll yarn over and pull through 2, then do the same thing at the end on the chain 3, pull up through 2, yarn over and pull through all the 3 loops. For that reduction, chain 3 and turn to begin row 22, which is also a reduction row. We're going to reduce in the second and the third stitch, so you know the drill here. We are crocheting, we are doing 2 double crochets together, that's the reduction. Then the next stitch gets 1 double crochet, and all the stitches to the end will get 1 double crochet. I'll work to the end of row 21, then I'll work back in row 22. So I'll go to the end of row 21. At the end, I'll just make sure that I've worked in the chain 3. So those are 2 rows of reduction. Then when I come to the end of row 22, I'm not going to reduce. Is it 22 or 23? I'm not even keeping tabs. I'm losing count. So whichever row it is, when I come to the end of it, I'll not do a reduction because I've already done 2 rows of reduction. I'm coming to the end of that row, and like I mentioned earlier, this row has no reduction, so I'll do my last stitch in the chain 3. Then I'm going to move the stitch marker that is marking the row that has no reduction to that row right now, so that I know that is where I have not reduced. And so I'm going to reduce for two rows and then continue. So I'll be reducing in 2 rows, then the third row I'll work it with no reduction. So here I'm going to start with a reduction in the second and the third stitch, just like that. Crochet 2 together, then continue with 1 double crochet to the end, and then after that I'll keep going until I get my 9 inches. 9 inches now is standard for everyone, so I'll do a total of 17 rows from the other 17 rows that I had gotten, and that will get me to 34 rows, and that will be the end of my first front panel. So let me work to the end, or to the 34 rows, and I'll be back to show you what to do next. I'm done with my 34 rows, as you can see, and I don't need that stitch marker that was marking the row that is not having a reduction, so I'll just remove it, and this is what we have over here. So when I measure this from the top to the bottom, I should get 18 inches right there. 18. So we are done with the first front panel, and so we're going to chain one at the end, get the pair of scissors and cut off the yarn, then pull the yarn through. We're then going to make another panel completely identical to this because we need two front panels. My two front panels ready. So this is the first one. As you can see, we have the V over there, then this is the second one. They are completely identical. So when I place them on top of each other, this is what we have. But then one is gonna have to turn like this so that we can have one on one side and one on the other side. To work the back panel, we start with a slip knot and chain 70. 70 is double the number of chains that I began with in the front panels. So I'm going to chain 70, and then the rows are basically the same way I started the rows for the front panel. So let me work the 70 chains, then I'll show you the first two rows, and then you can keep going till you get to the end of the panel. After the 70 chains, I'm going to block off the second chain from the hook and chain two more, and that's our first double crochet, and over and do a double crochet into that chain that I'm holding. Then I'm going to place one double crochet into all the chains across. At the end of row 1, I'll have a total of 70 double crochets. I'm done with row 1 and I have my 70 double crochets. Then I'm going to chain 3 and turn to begin row 2. Then the chain 3 is the first double crochet, so I'll begin in the second stitch where I'll place a double crochet and then work a double crochet across. At the end of the row, we need to make sure that we work a double crochet onto the chain 3 at the end, then chain 3 and turn, and we're going to repeat row 2 until we have a total of 74 rows, which is the same number of rows that I have in my front panels. I'm done with the back panel. So at the end, I'll just chain 1 as usual. So chain 1 and cut off the yarn at that point. Pull the yarn through and fasten. So there is our back panel. We work the sleeve next, and I already have one sleeve ready. I've done a total of 28 rows for the sleeve parts with the ribbon that I've done with the slip stitches. So I'm going to show you how to do another one like this. Start by chaining 70 and 75, actually 75, which gets me to 21 inches, which is the full length of the sleeve that I want to work. Start row 1 by chaining 1 more, then going into the second chain after the hook, insert the hook and pull up the stitch all through to do a slip stitch. In the second chain, we're going to do the second slip stitch, then we're going to do a third slip stitch into the third chain, a fourth slip stitch, and I'm going to do a total of 13 slip stitches, 1 in each of the chains, until I've done the slip stitches in 13 chains. I have my 13 slip stitches. In the 14th chain, I'll do a single crochet. Into the 15th chain, I'll do a half double crochet. So yarn over and pull up a loop to get 3 loops of the hook, yarn over, pull through all the 3 loops. Then I'm going to get a stitch marker and I'm going to mark that half double crochet stitch. So in that stitch, place your stitch marker, and that's a total of 15 stitches. 13 slip stitches, 1 single crochet and 1 half double crochet. Then in the next chain, I'm going to place a double crochet, 1 double crochet, then 1 double crochet into the next chain, and I'm going to work 1 double crochet into all the remaining chains from this point. I'm at the end of the first row, and this is what I have for row 1. Then I'm going to chain 3 and turn to begin row 2. I'm going to begin row 2 in the second stitch, where I'll place a double crochet. Then I'm going to work 1 double crochet in each of the stitches until I get to the stitch that is marked. I'm at the mark stitch, so I'll pull out the stitch marker, then place a half double crochet into that stitch, and then put the stitch marker back into that stitch. Next, we're going to work in the back loops. So this is the back loop right here for the single crochets and the slip stitches. So this is a normal stitch, but back loop is right here. I hope you can see it. So work in the back loop, do a single crochet. In the next stitch, in the back loop, we're going to do a slip stitch, and we're going to do a total of 13 slip stitches to the end of row 2. So that's 1, then we have 2 in the back loop, and keep working all the way to the end. I'm in the last stitch, so I'll just work my last slip stitch there in the back loop, and that's the end of row 2, and that's the first row that we're going to be repeating. Then chain 1 and turn to begin row 3, and this is the second row that we'll be repeating. So we'll be repeating row 2 and 3. Start in the back loop for row 3, back loop of the first stitch, do a slip stitch into the next stitch in the back loop, and work until you have a total of 13 slip stitches before changing to a single crochet, then to a half double crochet. So let me work my 13 slip stitches. Just before the stitch marker, I'm going to do a single crochet in the back loop. Then I'm going to take out the stitch marker, and in that stitch, in the both loops, I'll work a half double crochet, then put the stitch marker back in place, and then in the next stitch, in the both loops, I'm going to work double crochet, a double crochet stitch. Then I'm going to place 1 double crochet into all the stitches across. At the end of row 3, I'll work a double crochet on the chain 3 that's at the end. I'm placing my last double crochet into the chain 3, Then I'll chain 3 and turn to begin row 4. And row 4 will be the same as row 2. Begin in the second double crochet, place 1 double crochet into every stitch until you get to the stitch marker. At the end of row 4, I'll chain 1 and turn and do row 5 the same as row 3. Row 6 will be the same as row 2. Row 7 will be the same as row 3. So I'll keep alternating between row 2 and row 3 till I get between 16 and 18 inches in width. My 2 sleeves are ready, and each of the sleeves is 28 rows. If you want your sleeve wider, you might consider working more rows. So that's the first sleeve. Then we have the second one over here. And now that I have all my pieces ready, I can get to joining them to complete the cardigan. So we're going to start with the back panel and the 2 front panels. So here we have the back panel, and you want to place your back panel in such a way that you have the wrong side. Like my wrong side will be on the table, on the side of the table, then the right side is on top. And I want to place it like that so that you can see the upper part. We are joining on the shoulders first. Then I'm going to get one of the front panels and place it on one side. And you want to make sure that the V side is on the inside. I've marked the point where I started reducing in order to get the V. So this comes to that side. Then I'm going to get the other one and place it on the other side like this. So this is how our cardigan looks like at the moment. And now I'll start joining from one end. So I'll put one of the front panels aside, then I'll join this side, and then I'll go join the other side. Start in the first stitch of the front panel and the first stitch, which is the chain 3 on the back panel right there. Then I'll grab this yarn and pull it through to slip stitch, then chain 1, go back into that stitch where I've done the slip stitch and place a single crochet. And then I'm going to place 1 single crochet into all the stitches to this point. So you want to make sure that you're aligning your stitches the right way. So the second stitch with the second stitch on the other side, place a single crochet. And as you can see, I'm working over my ends. Then the third stitch aligned with the third stitch on the other side. My last stitch on the front part is a chain, so make sure that if there's a chain, you don't forget to work into it, and then complete with a single crochet, chain 1, and cut off the yarn at that point. Pull the yarn through and fasten. So we have one of the front panels joined with the back panel, and then I'll get the second front panel and I'll place it on top like this. Then I think I'll just turn my work so that I can work from the other side. It's easier that way because I do not have to count the stitches. So when I turn, I'll begin right here, and I'm just going to join the same exact way I've joined on the other side. I'm done joining the second front panel, and this is how my work looks like right now. So that's the upper part. And yeah, so next we're going to join the sleeves. This is what I do to connect my sleeves. I just turn my work like this. Make sure that you're on the wrong side. And we want the shoulder part because that's where we're connecting the sleeves. Then we get one of the sleeves and place it on one side. You want to count your rows, the number of rows right here, so that you mark the middle of your sleeve. So I did a total of 28 rows. So I'm going to count 14 rows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So right here, in the middle of these 2 rows, I'll mark with a stitch marker. Then I'll connect at that part where I've joined one side, one front panel and the back panel. So that shoulder part. And then we do the same thing on the other side with the other sleeve. Count a total of 14 rows, then mark. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Right in the middle, right here. Not on the row, but the middle part with the shoulders. After connecting, you just need to turn to one of the sleeves and start with it, join it. So right here, I have 14 rows on this side and 14 rows on the other side. Now you need to make sure that on the other panels, this is the back panel, and this other side we have the front panel. So I'm going to start with this side. You want to make sure that on one side you have 14 rows. So I'm going to count 1. This is 1, 2. This is 1 row right here. Then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is 12, 13. This is the 14th row. I'll insert the hook into the first row of the sleeve and the 14th row on the back panel. Then I'll get the yarn and connect it at that point. Slip stitch the yarn in those two double crochet rows, then chain 1, and I'm going to work over the ends including this one. Then I'll go back into those 2 rows and place 2 single crochets. So that's 1 and 2. So you want to align the double crochet rows. So I'll get the next 2 double crochet rows, this one on this side and the other one on the other side, and place 2 single crochets into them. So basically we're going to do 2 single crochets into each of the double crochet rows while connecting the 2 panels, and I'm going to work until I get to the stitch marker. I'll take out the stitch marker once I get there. Then I'll do a single crochet at that point where I had marked, not on the rows but the point that was marked. Then I'm going to move on to the next row and the double crochet row on the other side of the stitch marker and do 2 single crochets into those rows, then continue all the way to the end till I've connected the sleeve to the end. At the end, I'll have 2 single crochets in the very last row of the sleeve and the corresponding row on the other side of the front panel. So 2 single crochets at the end, chain 1 and cut off the yarn at that point. Then pull the yarn through and fasten. Right here we have one of the sleeves joined, so I'm going to turn to the other side and join the other sleeve the same exact way, but I'll do this off camera and then come back to show you what to do next. I'm done joining the second sleeve, and this is what we have. Now as you can see, there's a bit of spaces on at the points where I've joined the sleeves. So if you don't want this, you can join your sleeves with the darning needle. Instead of using the single crochet stitches, you can use the darning needles in order for this part to be seamless. If you don't want it, the seam that visible and this space is showing, then use the darning needle. After joining our sleeves, we're just going to turn this like this, fold it in such a way that the sleeves are folded, so that now we can start joining from the wrists through the armpits all the way to the bottom. So we're going to do that on this side, and then we're going to turn to the other side and do the same exact thing. So let's begin on this other side, on the sleeve from the wrist part. I'll get my hook. And now because we have stitches that are very visible, this part is very easy to join. You're just going to join the corresponding stitches. So insert the hook into the first stitch right here. Insert the hook into that first stitch, grab the yarn and slip stitch. Chain 1, back into that stitch with a single crochet. You have to make sure that you're aligning your stitches correctly. So that's the first stitch. Then you move into the second stitch and the second stitch on the other side and do a single crochet. I'm working over the ends. Then I'm going to go into the third stitch and the third stitch on the other side and do a single crochet. Then I'm just going to align all the stitches till I get to the armpit. Make sure you do not skip a stitch and you do not work twice in one stitch. I've joined all the corresponding stitches up to the armpit area, so I'll do a single crochet in this part of joining and on the other side. Then I'll get to the rows, this first row and the first row on the other side, do 2 single crochets right there, then 2 single crochets in the next 2 rows. We are aligning the rows on the panels, and we're going to work the 2 single crochets into each of the rows till we get to the bottom part right here. Just make sure that you align your rows the right way. Then in the last rows, 2 single crochets as usual. Chain 1 and cut off the yarn at that point. Then pull through and fasten. And we have one of the sleeves completely joined and in place. So I'll just turn to the other side and connect the other sleeve, but I'll do that off camera because you already know how to do this. So see you once I'm done with this other side, starting from the wrist, of course. I have the second sleeve in place, as you can see, and at this point I'm just going to turn my cardigan to the right side. So just turn it so that we can work the ribbon. When you're working the ribbon, you will need to do that from the right side of the cardigan. Then I'm going to start with the bottom ribbon. So we should have a ribbon at the bottom part and at the front part. So I'll start with the bottom. And so I'll turn my work like this, and I'll start with, let me see, I'll start on this end. Start with a slip knot, then get the end. Remember, this is the bottom part. I turned my cardigan upside down so that I can work on the bottom part of the cardigan. I'm going to take this hook and insert it in between the first stitch and the second stitch. So that space in between, slip stitch there to connect the yarn. Then I'm going to chain that in. After the 13 chains, I'll start on the second chain from the hook. So count 1 and 2. So into this second one, insert the hook and do a slip stitch. Into the next stitch, insert the hook and do a slip stitch. And we're going to work slip stitches into each of the stitches, each of the chains, for a total of 12 slip stitches. You can make them 10 or 13 or 15. It's all up to you. The ribbon does not have to be the same length as mine. You can even work with 6 stitches or even 5. I'm working with 12 because I want it a little bit long. So that's the first row of the ribbon. Then I'm going to insert the hook in between the second double crochet and the third and slip stitch right there. Then I'll go into the next space in between the double crochets and slip stitch for the second time. Then turn to begin row 2 of the ribbon. We're going to work in the back loops. So this is the first stitch. Work into the back loop, do a slip stitch, and then we're going to work 1 slip stitch into each of the stitches in the back loops. So make sure that you're not too tight with your slip stitches so that you make it easy to go inside the stitches when you're working the next row, because when you're too tight, then working the stitches becomes very hard. This is the last stitch, and you want to make sure that you work in the back loop. chain 1 and turn to begin row 3. Again, we're going to work row 3 in the back loops. So start in the first stitch in the back loop, do a slip stitch. Then we're going to do one slip stitch across for a total of 12 slip stitches. Once you're done with that row, you're going to work in between the next 2 double crochets right here, slip stitch to complete row 3, then slip stitch again to begin row 4, then turn. When we turn, we're going to work row 4 the same way we did row 2. So this is how I identify the first row. I just look over here and I know the stitch will be this one right here, the back loop over there. So do one slip stitch into each of the back loops all the way down. If you're not comfortable working the slip stitches, I would advise that you go with single crochets in the back loops, but then use a smaller hook. So if you are using a 3.5 millimeter crochet hook and you want to work single crochets instead of the slip stitches, you can use a 2.5 millimeter crochet hook. If you are using, say, a 4.5, you can use the 3.5. So I'm done with row 4. I'll chain 1 and turn to begin row 5. And we're going to work row 5 the same way we worked row 3, beginning in the first stitch in the back loop. And then we work one slip stitch into all the stitches across for a total of 12. The last stitch looks a bit hidden, so make sure that you go into it. Do not miss any stitch. So as you go, you can count your stitches to make sure that you're maintaining your stitch count. Now to complete the row, we worked in this space previously, so we're going to move on to the next space, and that completes row 5. Now the next slip stitch that we do in between the stitches is like the chain that we use to turn and begin the next row, which is row 6, and row 6 is the same as row 2. So basically we're just repeating row 2 and row 3. So we work row 2, then row 3, row 2, then row 3. That means the even rows will be the same. Even rows are the rows that are divisible by 2. That is row 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and so on. So all the even rows are the same. Then the odd rows, which is from row 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, and so on, are also the same. So this is my row 6, which is the same as row 2. Chain 1 and turn to begin row 7, which is the same as row 3. So keep repeating those 2 rows until you worked the bottom part, the whole of this part, all the way to the end. So I'm going to complete this part and then come back. At the end of the last row, I'll do the slip stitch onto the double crochet at the end, then chain 1 and cut off the yarn at that point, and I'm done with the ribbon at that bottom part of the cardigan, and this is what we have. Let me just turn this to the right side. So there, that's what we have now. And now I'm ready to do the ribbon at the front part. And with that ribbon, I'm first going to place single crochets all the way around from this bottom part through the neckline all the way around to this point. So I'll start at the bottom right here, and I'm just going to slip stitch in the first stitch, then chain 1, go back into that stitch with a single crochet. The next stitch will also get a single crochet, a single crochet into the next stitch, and I'm going to do a total of 12 single crochets. That will get me to the rows, and on this first row I'm going to work 2 single crochets, then 2 single crochets into the next row, 2 single crochets in the row that follows, 2 single crochets. So each of the double crochet rows is going to get 2 single crochets, and I'll repeat this till I get to the top part of the cardigan. But then when I get to where the stitch marker is, I'll remove the stitch marker and continue marking that part. I just want to know where the V starts. So I'll keep the stitch markers in place. You don't really have to keep them, but I would advise that you do, because yeah, we want to know where the buttons will go, at least at the top part. So go on with the single crochets, 2 of them in each of the double crochet rows. When I get the stitch marker, I'll place the 2 single crochets, 1 and 2. Then I'm going to place the stitch marker in the first single crochet in that row right there. Then I'll continue into the next row with 2 single crochets and continue all the way to the top. So I'm at the top, and I've just done 2 single crochet in the last double crochet row here. So I'm going to go straight into the single crochets on the neckline and place into the stitches, not the single crochets, into these stitches. I'm going to place 1 single crochet into each one of them. Then again, I'm going to get onto the other side where the double crochet rows are, and I'm going to place 2 single crochets into each of the double crochet rows. at the stitch marker and take it out. Then I'll place 2 single crochets there, and this time round I'll mark the second single crochet just to make sure that it aligns with the other one on the other side. Then I'll continue all the way down, 2 single crochets into each double crochet row. Then I'm going to get to the ribbon at the bottom, and each of the stitches of the ribbon will get 1 single crochet. I'm at the stitches, so I'll place 1 single crochet into each one of them till I get to the end. So I have the last single crochet right here in the last stitch. Then I'll cut off those 2 ends that are remaining over there. Now you need to identify the number of buttons that you want to place between this point and this point. Now this is the side where I'm going to place my buttonholes, and I'll start by counting 1, 2, and 3 stitches. Then I'll mark. So this is the point where the first buttonhole goes, and this is where the last one will be. So now we need to identify where the other 2 will lie. If you want to place 5, then you will have to identify where the other 3 lie. So to do that, I want to chain 2, I'm going to count the stitches from the stitches in between the stitch markers. So I've gotten a total of 42 stitches. So with the 42 stitches, I need to know where these 2 stitch markers will go. After getting 42 stitches, because I have 2 buttonholes, that means we're going to have 3 spaces. One, we place a stitch marker, another one, we place another stitch marker. So I'm going to divide the 42 by 3. If you've gotten a number that is not divisible by 3, that's quite okay. You can just round it off to the nearest number. 42 divided by 3, that's 14. So that means I'll count 14 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. So I'll mark the 14th stitch. Then again, I'll count another 14. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. Then I'll mark that next 14th stitch. Then I'll count the stitches here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and this is the 15th. So one stitch extra at that point. It won't make a huge difference. So these are the points where my buttonholes will go. So now I'll start by chaining 6, I'll chain 6, 7, 6 plus 1, which is 7, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Then I'm going to start in the second stitch or second chain after the hook, which was the 6th chain, and that we place a slip stitch. In the next stitch, we're going to place a slip stitch, a slip stitch into the third, and there are going to be a total of 6 slip stitches. So I've already done 3, then I'll do the 4th one, 5 and 6. Then I'll turn my work like this, slip stitch into the second stitch, then I'll remove the stitch marker, then slip stitch at that point where the stitch marker is. After that, I'll turn, and I'm placing the buttonhole in this row. So I'm going to start with a slip stitch in the first stitch, 1, then a second one. Then after that, I'm going to chain 2. Then I'll skip 2 stitches and slip stitch into the next one in the back loop, then in the last stitch. Make sure that you're working the back loops only. Chain 1 and turn to begin the next row. Then we're going to start in the first stitch, do a slip stitch into the second stitch. Now the next stitch is a chain, and into that chain we're going to do 2 single crochets. Instead of slip stitches, we do single crochets, 1 and 2. Then in the last 2 stitches in the back loops, we're going to do 1 slip stitch each to make a total of 6 stitches. And there we have our first buttonhole. So then in the next stitch, we slip stitch this stitch right here. Do a slip stitch to complete row 3. Then do a second slip stitch in the next stitch to start row 4, and then turn. When we turn, we work in the back loops a total of 6 slip stitches in row 4. So 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6. Chain 1 and turn. You know the drill here, so we're just working the rows the same way we did at the bottom part. And then when we get to the next stitch marker, we're going to work a buttonhole in that row. So let me just keep going with my rows. When I get to this side, I slip stitch twice into 2 stitches, 1 and then the second time. Then continue with the rows of slip stitches in the back loops. at the next stitch marker. So that is the second stitch of slip stitching. Then I'll turn and I'm going to create a buttonhole in this row, starting with a slip stitch in the first stitch, then a slip stitch into the second stitch, chain 2, then skip 2 stitches, then slip stitch into the last 2 stitches in the back loops, chain 1 and turn, then 1 slip stitch into the first stitch in the back loop, a slip stitch into the second stitch in the back loop, then 2 single crochets into the chain 2 space, we have 2 stitches remaining and each one of them will get a slip stitch. So now we have 2 buttonholes, and I'm just going to continue like that until I have the other 2 buttonholes. Then I'll continue all the way to the top. So now everything else is quite simple from here. As long as you know how to do the rows of ribbing and the buttonholes, you're good to go. You just need to make sure that each of the single crochet stitches over here gets a row of the ribbing. So as I come to the end on this side, I slip stitch into the next stitch, then I slip stitch again into the stitch that follows, and then turn. And this is what I'll keep on doing. Once you're done with the buttonholes, then the other parts should be really simple because we're just doing the slip stitch rows with just 6 stitches. So keep going all the way around. I'm going to finish this off camera and I'll be back once I've gotten to this part. When you work the row over here, make sure that you mark that row. We want to be sure where the V starts and where the button goes at the top, because this will indicate where the others will go. You don't actually need to mark. You can count the rows between the buttonholes when you're attaching the buttons, but I like to keep my stitch marker in place. So here I should chain 1 before starting the slip stitches. So let me finish the ribbing at the front part of the cardigan and then I'll be back. I'm done with the ribbing at the front part and this is how it looks like. I have my 4 buttonholes. I feel like I should have placed this buttonhole over here, but it's okay. I can work with it like that, or I can wear the sweater, the cardigan without buttoning these bottom parts. So I have the 4 buttonholes and the ribbon at the front part is done. You'll need to stretch out your work, and then we're going to identify where the buttons will go. So we already know this is where the first button goes and it aligns with this buttonhole over here. So I'm going to count the rows from this point: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So here I'm going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So over here, that's where we're going to have the second button. It aligns with this buttonhole. Then these are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 over here. Then the last one will be in the second row because the first buttonhole at the bottom here was in the second row. So I'll get my buttons and I'll sew them in. So you just want to hold your work like this and make sure that the buttonholes align with the parts where we've marked to attach the buttons. And then just sew them in. You can sew them in however you feel is okay for you. So on this row, I'll work in the 3rd and 4th stitch, starting from the inside, leaving a long end not so long. Then I'll get the button, then go through with the so I'm just going to go through those first two holes 2 times with the yarn, or even 3, as many times as possible. Doesn't have to be 2 times. Depends with the size of the yarn that you're using. You can use a sewing thread or the yarn that you are using. If you can fit through the sewing needle. Once you're satisfied that your button is in place, just tie tight knots. I'm going to tie 3 of them, then cut off the yarn. And I'm going to do the same exact thing for the other button. So we don't need this stitch marker anymore. And we have that button in place. So I'll attach the second button in this second stitch marker. All my buttons are in place. So the only thing that's remaining now is to weave in the ends, which I'm going to do off camera, of course. I believe that you know how to weave in the ends. I don't really have to show that right here. And yeah, we're done with the cardigan. This is how it looks like. If you feel like the spaces are too large, like these gaps, you can use a smaller hook, or you can use the half double crochet stitch instead of the double crochet. So thank you so much for sticking around to the end of the tutorial. If you've enjoyed it, kindly leave a like, comment, and let me know what you think about this sweater. See you in the next tutorial, and don't forget to leave a thanks for the tutorial down below.